morning. And this conversation, for the past 2 weeks, I've been having conversations on this, and I'm happy to share my story once again here. So you are right. I was born hearing, and I joined a hearing school. And in the course of the schooling, I became sick. And I remember my parents told me that I was at the hospital, but it looks like I was in coma. I had to be at the hospital for 1 week. When I regained consciousness, I could not hear again. All what I knew was I felt sick whilst I was hearing, and then coming back live, I lost my hearing.
Wow.
So since that time, I have not heard. I left out of school for some years and came back to the deaf school again. So I think that is all the story that I can tell for now.
Wow. Now, that's an intriguing development, but evidently you did not give up on your dreams to live your full potential. Tell us about your upbringing.
So, from the first conversation, I made mention that I was born hearing, and at a point I became deaf. Between 1992 to 1996, I was not in school because of the condition. I missed out of school. I was home. I was doing farming, helping my parents. 1996, I came back to school. So to join the deaf school, school for the deaf, where I had to start all over again. Between 1992 to 1996, I was home. No language, nothing. I was trying to use the speech that I had acquired, but it was not working. By 1996, I had to join the deaf school, and I started learning how to sign. From 1996 to 2007, I was studying with deaf people at School for the Deaf. After the primary education, I went to junior high school, and then later I came to Mampong Senior High School for the Deaf. And in Ghana, we only have one senior high school for the deaf. I stayed there for all the years. And then when I got my SHS done, I spent 4 years at the senior high school. In the hearing school, we have 3 years. But SHS 1, SHS 2, SHS 3. But for the deaf students, we go 4 years. Because of the disability, some may not be able to read well. So we have 4 years instead of the normal 3 years. So I had to do the 4 years. And I passed my West African examinations. So from there, I moved to University of Ghana, Legon, where I did my first degree.
Wow, congratulations. Now, you clearly didn't give up. But was there ever a time where you felt that society was looking at you as a disabled person to the point where maybe you were not going to be able to further your education and eventually become the man you've become?
I think so. There are a lot. This conversation is still going on, and then still society hasn't changed their perspective about deaf people. I walk around, people get to know me. Before I knew you were hearing. How come you are deaf now? So people give you a lot of interpretations to your condition. Some may say I've been cursed. Maybe my parents had done something wrong. But the stigma alone associated with disability is not an easy thing to experience. One bitter experience I would want to share with you is people meeting you and then making assumptions that once you are a deaf person, you cannot do anything for yourself. So sometimes they see you and then they'll tell you that as a deaf person, why don't you go and learn a trade, carpentry, vocation or something? That will be helpful for you. But when I got to Legon around 2008, my first experience with some of the students, so they asked me, why you are here to do what? To learn. And they were asking me, how can you read? If I could not have read, how would I have gotten admission here? So before my classmates, after the first exam, that is when they realized that, oh, okay, so I could read. So it's surprising that arriving at that level, people having that perception about me, it made me felt kind of way. But people meet you and they always, one question that they ask me, can you read? So today, they still ask me, can you read? It's the society have a way of looking at us. The word deaf, hearing that you are deaf, they have a way of looking at you. The perception alone is something else. So once a hearing and then the deaf are together, they think the deaf cannot cross over the line to success. That is a stigma we face.
Well, guess what? That stigma is broken, because here you are. You've gone to the law school and you've been called to the bar. Something that a lot of other people who are so-called able-bodied have failed several times to achieve. So congratulations. Now, Juventus, it's quite an interesting... How did you come by the name Juventus?
Thank you so much.
This is an interesting question. Most of the time, it appears in interviews, and I wish to know why that name. People want to know. So the long story of it is, my understanding is when I was giving birth, my name was Juventus IS.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that was my name. So as a child, 2, 3, 4 years, I was in the school. And then when the teachers were registering my name, instead of Juventus, so it became, they made the mistake. They used the team's name, Juventus. And later, when I saw the documentation that my parents had for my birth, I realized that it was Juventus, not Juventus. So the teachers changed my name, and it has been there forever. And now at this level, I don't think I can change it. And that is how my name appeared, Juventus.
Here I was thinking that you were going to use your law degree now to go and do an affidavit and correct the name.
So no, I think I like the name.
You do? Well, it's a good name. It means youth in Latin, and so we hope that you continue to be youthful. But so we
yes.
We have your signer here in the studio with us. Was this the case when you went through the university and through law school as well?
So no. So as at the time I was at the law school, I informed the authorities that I need 2 sign language interpreters so that they can work with me. Though the interpreters don't have legal background, but they have the skill, they have the knowledge in interpreting. And then with that, it will help me to learn fast. So the interpreters, I have 2. One of them was not fortunate to be here today. We don't have the legal background. We have the skills in interpreting. So going through it, at some point, it becomes a challenge. But with time, we all became skillful, and then we had a little background to the legal terms, and now we are good to go, and we're working together.
It's quite interesting that you mentioned the legal terms, because I was about to ask that in when you listen to lawyers, every once in a while you quote maxims that are in Latin. Are your signers able to sign that? So if you were making an argument and you needed to use a maxim, will the sign be able to achieve that?
So in the classroom, when the Latin words appears, the terminologies, for deaf people, these words, we don't have signs for them. So most of the time, we have to do spelling and then explain the meaning of the sign. So other words we have signs for, but for the Latin words, we don't have signs for it. So what do? We finger spell for me to understand and give the explanations.
Wow. Now, I want to go back a little bit. Your condition started after an illness around the age of 9. Now, being a boy or being a man now, I remember when I was 9, and I've seen my sons grow through that age as well. It's a period where boys, able-bodied boys, are unstoppable. You're jumping, you're running, you're playing football. What was your 9 years like?
So, that's around 9 years, you mean, right?
Yeah, I mean, did you play football like other children? And what happened after the disease?
No, I remember. I remember playing football before getting this condition with my hearing friends. But even in the village where we don't have light and deprived area, you use some socks to make some ball that we were playing around, and then going to the farm most of the times. As a young person, I know in the past it was difficult to even find football to play, but young students of today, young guys have the balls, but we had to mend the socks to make. It wasn't a serious thing that we were playing around. It was just for
Well, for what it's worth, I played socks ball too. And I was born and raised here in Accra. My parents got very upset with me coming home with one of the socks instead of both pairs, because we all used to donate half a pair. You know, but you talk about growing up in a rural setting. Tell us exactly where you were born and what the community was like.
Okay, so before I even did the introduction, I call my village a holy village.
Okay.
CHARIA. 5 kilometers from Wa, the capital city. 5 kilometers from Wa.
Okay.
That is where I'm from. Now I understand the place is developed now. Now it is closer to Wa, almost close to Wa, and closer to Accra, and closer to everywhere we are, closer to Koforidua as well. That was where I was born.
Tiara.
I grew up there, and then I mostly go and visit.
Wow. So, you're a lawyer, and you clearly have demonstrated that one's hurdles or disabilities in life should not stop you from achieving your dreams. At what point did you decide that law was your thing?
Thank you. This is interesting to me personally. My dream of becoming a lawyer started in 2008. I was searching for admission to Legon. But after I got my senior high school done at 2007, I had to wait for 1 year before you can get admission to the university. I remember that is the deal then. So I remember my brother, he is a doctor now. He helped me a lot, teaching me, buying forms, and we were reading through to see if we can get law. That time we were using the newspapers. We are in a digital world now. So we had to go through the manual, which is reading through, and we didn't see the law program in there. So I applied for political science, and then religious. They were the courses, religious and something. So throughout the 4 years, my first degree, I did the political science. 2014, I went to the UK where I studied LLB in law. So that gave me more inspiration to do more, because I met a lot of lawyers, professors who sharing their stories. I was inspired, and I decided to know when I get back to Ghana, this is what I'm going to do.
Which university did you study your LLB at?
Cardiff.
Oh, Cardiff University in Wales. Okay.
In law. Yes.
Now, while you were in the UK, would you tell us what the difference in terms of support for a deaf student compared to here in Ghana?
So, fortunately, as my last time studying with deaf students was 2007. As I sat in classroom with deaf students was 2007. When I went to the UK, we didn't have sign language interpreters.
Wow.
So what did I do, if you should ask?
Mm-hmm.
I had a computer. When a lecturer is speaking, I did a transcription. I was using a transcription. There was no interpreter. So the first lecture was 2 hours. The first 30 minutes, the brain will be strong. But after the 30 minutes, the energy level will be coming down and then you'll be tired. But one thing about what they did, they gave me and then they made sure that before I arrived at classroom, the notes, the slides, everything will be ready for me. Sometimes the lecturers will send me and the course manuals, the PowerPoint, they will send it to me before the class begins. So I go through that and that helped me to participate well. That university, over 40,000 students. I was the only deaf person in there. I was the only deaf person.
How popular did that make you?
How make you popular? I found myself there and I tried to learn from the system. Interacting. I had few friends. I was doing paper and pen communication, and it was good.
I mean, if you had your way, if you look back at your education outside of the school for the deaf, how important do you think signing should be taken by nations, especially Ghana?
So I think you are entering an area where I am very comfortable and talking about. I stayed in Legon for 7 years. I met some individuals who are really deaf, but they don't know how to sign. And it's so sad. I weep for them. I cry for them. The reason is it's difficult for them to even interact with people, communicating with people. They don't communicate at all. Sometimes myself, I feel very okay because I use sign language. I have interpreters around. I go for meetings. I contribute. That alone is an inspiration. 2 years at the Ghana School of Law, I was fortunate to have 2 skillful interpreters. I didn't felt left out. I didn't see that I even had a disability. In the classroom, I was contributing. I was interacting with my friends. All of these things made me felt inspired. Personally, I think Ghana must step up and then introduce sign language, accept sign language. It's very, very important. It will help deaf people to even communicate with the hearing.
Part of the conversation.
It is easy for me to communicate with other people with an interpreter or learning the sign language myself. But if everyone should learn sign language and can communicate with me directly, I will be very happy. Thank you.
Okay. I'm curious as to what languages you speak in sign, because obviously Chi is different from English, is different from your
his
tribal or
normal
language.
his ethnic language. Yeah.
Thank you. So sign language itself is associated from the English language. When we are communicating, we use our hands to communicate. So whatever that you say, I would have to convert that in word to sign using the hands, adding the facial expression. It is different from the normal languages that we speak. So if you are speaking tree, I would have to change the tree to sign language for him. If you are speaking ever, I would have to understand the ever and change it for him. So if you don't have independent language that we leverage on, it's different thing altogether.
Right. Okay. Now there are in the community of people who are living with this particular disability, there are those who consider themselves to be a group that never wants to hear again, and there are those who they can get hearing aids and things like that. Where do you sit?
So if someone asks me if you have the opportunity to hear again, would you hear or you want to be deaf? And I told the person I want to stay deaf. If you ask me this question, these opportunities, if you want to become hearing or you want to become deaf, it doesn't matter. Disability itself is not a problem. if you get an interpreter, or if how people interpret the disability to you becomes the challenge. As a deaf person having interpreters, I don't feel the disability. I communicate. Oh, what you are saying here, I understand through the interpreter. So what is the disability then? Recently, we have 779 students were called to the bar recently, and among them, a lot of the students were not able to make it. So if I am deaf and I've been able to make it through a sign language interpreter, what then is the disability? After all, there are other students who were not able to pass the exam. My community, my class, we have a lot of them that I didn't even see. Initially I felt like I was going to fail. But later, after the course, I was like, really? So to become deaf is not the problem, but how the perception people have on you and then the respect that they give you becomes the problem. Personally, I am not failing to move or to, like, I don't feel like becoming hearing. What I want is a system where everybody can interact, we communicate with one another. That's the system I want.
Okay. You talked before about stigma. Some people saying you've been cursed, not you, but people living with a disability have been cursed or something like that. How serious is that problem? And what do you think? After what you've been through and what you've achieved, what can you do? Are you going to be advocating for education on these kinds of things?
Thank you once again. Stigma comes through misconception and perceptions from people. When I meet people or persons with disability, sometimes relating with them becomes difficult. As I sit here, I don't see anything spiritual about me becoming deaf. You give birth to 5 children. Some will become tall, some will become short. So some will become fat, some are slim. Do we consider them as disability or spiritually related to them? No. My understanding, the disability itself is not a problem. How we interpret the disability, the perception people have about the disability starts the stigma. So what do we do then? We have to encourage community members to see a person with disability, not to say that a person is not able to do anything. They are capable and able. We have to see through and then see the visual. How, if you have a glass and then it is opaque, you cannot see through, right? So we have to see through what they can do, the possibilities of the persons with disability. That will help everyone.
Okay. All right. My final question. I was just going to... So you've graduated now. Here you are. Newly minted lawyer. What's next?
Okay, so there are a lot of people around asking me what next. So the world is also looking at you. What you are going to do next? Why are you moving from here? That's an interesting question. So the legal profession itself is procedural. So after the law school, you need 6 months to practice. Yes. And after the privilege, then you know what to do. So now, honestly, at the back of my mind, practicing law, maybe how is a deaf person going to argue in court? I'm ever ready. Can a deaf person argue in court? Yes, I can. And I have good interpreters who can do that. The 2 interpreters had been with me in 2 years through the legal profession, the training. We have different activities. Example, we have in the moot court, we have in the internship. The interpreters were with me throughout, and we went through it. If I'm able to finish all these levels, then practicing it is not something that I should be scared of.
I'm very excited to hear
so
that.
Practicing for 6 months, I know I'll be able to go and then argue in court. I'm not about. It's not about winning the case, but going to court and then doing the right thing.
Doing your part.
Wonderful. Well, Juventus, so you're now starting your pupillage. Which chamber are you working in?
So I want to begin in January 2025 because now I'm in a honeymoon state. I want to release the pressure.
You deserve it.
Yes. So 2025 January.
Okay.
So I am not specifically. I specifically don't know the chamber I'm going to work with, but I'm still considering and thinking about it.
Now you said honeymoon, and I noticed you're wearing a wedding band. Is that the honeymoon you're referring to? Or graduating from law school?
No, graduating from law school. And still thinking through what is next for me, which chamber I'm going to work, and paying some little attention to my family as well.
Wonderful. Now you talk about a family, and of course, the wedding band indicates that you're married, unless it's for fashion. How did you meet your wife?
So I feel this question. When I was in senior high school, that time I just saw my wife. One time I met her on campus, and during the graduation she was there, and then we started a conversation from back then in the school. I think 2012 we started the serious relationship, and we got married, and that is it.
Does your wife sign?
Yes, she signs.
And is she hearing?
My wife is also deaf.
Okay. And your children?
So I have children. All of them are hearing.
Right. And well, so they have a double advantage now. They can hit sign and they speak.
Yes, exactly. They have a lot of advantage. Yes.
Wow. No, this is awesome. So, I mean, a lot of people would say that sometimes what you would consider a tragedy is an opportunity for you to make an impact. Are you going to, at any point, lead advocacy for a signing revolution, if I could use that terminology, in Ghana?
Yes. Before that, before I joined the law school, I was the executive director for National Association for the Deaf. So all my life, I have been working on advocacy for persons with disability. And now that I am a lawyer and I've been called to the bar, it gives me the momentum and then the level ground to really connect with persons with disability and advocate intensively. First, sign language recognition. The government should recognize sign language as a language for the country. The court system, the parliament, they should accept sign language as a mode of communication. Yesterday, when I was watching a program on court proceedings, we have the speaker, so you see, I was looking at it, I was very sad because there was no interpreter there to interpret for me to hear. My hearing counterparts will get advantage. All 70,000 plus people in Ghana, they don't have access. As deaf people, they don't have access to all these things. So yesterday I was very sad, very, very sad. At the back of my head, I was like, the connection to deaf people in Ghana is not there. The problem is access information is not there.
Wow, that's a very important call. Now, evidently, like you said, it breaks your heart that you meet people who are deaf but can't sign because they haven't had access to the school for the deaf. Now, how difficult is it to get into the school for the deaf? Is it as expensive as, are there any special rates, or that's why some people can't access it?
So with this, I'm very inspired when you talk about education. I through education, I am who I am and sitting before you. If not education, where would I be? Where would be Juventus? Calling to the bar, I got a number of interviews. through education. So education transformation is very important. As I'm sitting here, I'm able to communicate with you all because I have been educated. So I want to say kudos to Ghana, the government of Ghana, for the responsibility and then giving the deaf education throughout the country. All the schools, basic schools, they are free since it is free. You don't pay any fees. The parents who have to pay some support, the soap, the toiletries, the gari and the sugar and the likes. The parents don't pay anything. Then you just buy these things and send the child to school. So stigma alone, the parents feel that educating the child, what is the child going to do in the future? So they don't put them to school. That is the doubt parents have. They think about the future. Remember the time of COVID? I was sitting at my office. One woman walked to my office and met me. I invited the woman in, welcomed her. She was crying. And she was crying. And my children, I have two deaf children, and my husband is not happy, and I'm always worrying and crying, and I had to send them to deaf school. And I asked the woman, so look at me, I'm also deaf. And I advised the woman to send the kids to school. It will help the children to become great. The woman was like, no, the community people will look down on me, and I feel ashamed. The woman is worried not about the children, about the society and how the society will look at them. So because of these things, the woman was in doubt sending the child to school. Now, where are the children? I don't even know. If the woman sent them to school, I feel bad. Looking back, if I had not sent my children to school, the woman might have been hiding the children from school. The government is paying the teachers, they pay for 3 meals a day. The stigma parents have in sending their wards to school is what the society will talk about.
Yeah. You know, you make a very important point, and I think that we all are God's children. We have different abilities. You have the ability to sign. I don't. And so I don't have an advantage necessarily over you. But for an integrated society, what do you think needs to happen so that I should be able to meet you, sign when I realize that you don't have hearing? Should it be taught at the primary level? Should it be part of the GES system and not only limited to the schools for the deaf?
Or at least a version of it.
So, thanks again. First, I want to congratulate and then appreciate a lot of institutions in Ghana who are thriving hard for the deaf people, pushing education far. So for sign language recognition to become recognized in all schools, I'm very happy to inform you that NACA with the government has started developing a curriculum for teaching of sign language in all schools. That is a good news, but we have to celebrate that. And visiting other countries, they don't have such opportunities. Ghana, we have moved ahead in terms of this. That what's important is the government should adapt this and then make the implementation across the country. I can meet you, you speak, you sign. It will help us all to have an inclusive society. Majority of us don't do that. We work more, both private and then public sectors, whatever where you are working. The little basic or basic communications will help us a lot.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much. I was going to say, when you were signing, you said "oh," and is that how do you do the sign for "oh"? At the end of a sentence, you said, "We don't do that, oh." And but yeah. In a more serious note. The stigma, so, and I want to go back to this.
Do you want me to respond to that?
Yeah, his response. No, but he did respond. We need to hear his response.
Okay. Okay, so sign language itself we have expressions, the body, the facial expression, all comes part. So as I am looking at him, because I have the skills, when I have a facial expression, I know what to say, what exact word I mean. So I'm able to use that. So if I am explaining in a classroom, if I want to say something, my expression, my facial expression, I know the exact word that he wants to communicate, and I will use that word. That is why you are saying O. I'm not saying O, but my expression is saying O. So the interpreter will say the O for me.
For the
Nice.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. The society is great to dream, big dreams, but the reality is that, and I'm going back to the stigma. Unfortunately, it's unfortunate that parents feel the way they do about their own children. With that in mind, I mean, in your own background, your own family, what was it like? I mean, did you get that kind of support? I know you talked about your brother a little bit, your brother, the doctor, but generally the village, the community, and everybody else, were they there for you? Were they pushing you forward, or did they just say, hey?
Yes. This question is very real. Luckily for me, I was fortunate have a strong family support. My brothers, my sisters, they were always there for me. They were telling me that you can. I think the parents were more into the village system, but all my brothers and sisters are educated. All of them were there to support me. They were encouraging me, Juventus, you can do it. Go forward. Go for it. That was a pressure for me, but they knew I could do it. But they encouraged me, you can do it, you can do it. And all these are inspiration to me. Without that, I couldn't have gone far. The support for my wife and always caring for the kids. I was traveling a lot, studying. My wife was caring for the kids. I recognize one time when a parent, if a parent is not supporting the kids, the wife is not supporting, how then do you have the peace of mind to learn? How then do you have the peace of mind to... The welfare of the child, it depends on you, the parent.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the thing of sign language and making sign language part of the curriculum and making other people, abled people, more familiar with it. I wanted to ask whether part of the business of building support for deaf people would be to send children with hearing impairments to normal school, quote unquote normal school, standard school. There are big debates about this in other parts of the world. Is that part of making disability part of our everyday life and making people more aware of how we live with disabled people?
Yes, so other part of the world are in an argument. Let's kids be in the same school. Let's practice inclusion. Let's interact. Countries like Denmark, for example, they are mainstreaming. We are here in Ghana. We need to develop our own ideas and ways that will help us. The system is different. We don't care about the child, where the child finds himself. So the language is very important, and the environment the child grows up in, language plays a role. If you have a deaf child, the communities, we have community schools. The child can go to the community schools. But at a place where the teachers and the children there don't know how to sign, how then does it help the child? So it is not enough to send the deaf child to a hearing school where the children don't know how to sign, where the teachers don't know how to sign. When it's break time, then they will isolate. That is not what we are supporting. But we want a system where the deaf child can communicate, can interact, and then they can help themselves. Then they can learn. At break time, they can play together. They will have friends around. If a child is feeling isolated and lonely, it's better you send a child to a deaf school to save the situation.
Right.
So I guess until you have a situation where it's actually mainstream,
but with the support. support
Mm-hmm.
with teachers,
Mhm.
sign or interpreters for the teacher. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, I just
Not
thought-
only not only teachers but also the children. The teachers may do their part. They do 30% of their work in the classroom. I am not a professional teacher. Teachers give maybe 30% of their knowledge to the child, but the 70% is with the friends. The child will spend the 70% with their friends. So assuming that we learn from our friends, 70%, the teachers doing the 30% will not even solve the puzzle. Not only the teachers, the children themselves must be able to know the basic sign language skills so that they can communicate.
Now, if you go to your pupillage, would you be going with your interpreters?
Yes, it's a must. I do all these things, I can, but in terms of communication, going for meetings, I need interpreters. I can type, I can do all the works, but to time for me to speak out, argue in court, I need an interpreter to help me to understand the proceedings.
Mm-hmm.
The interpreter should be there. It is not for the interpreter to tell me what to do. No, I know what I'm going to do. If I'm a lead counsel, what I'm going to say, I know what I'm going to say. And then the interpreter will speak for me. That's all what I need.
Wow. You are an inspiration. And
Enjoy.
like I said, I will not forget this interview.
Yeah.
He has a naturally cheerful, you have a naturally cheerful disposition, you know, and it's very infectious. You walked into the studio and we could feel the positive energy. We're thankful
you,
that you
thank you.
joined us on the Road to Greatness segment. But of course, as hardworking as you are, there are down times. What do you do to relax?
So I sit, read a book. It's good to read. I love reading. So the book, if the book is about people who have succeeded, I'll take it home, pick, and then read all successful people, and then I'll read about them and then see how they started, how it went. Then I'll put it in my shoes. It inspires me a lot to fight ahead. That's what I do to relax myself.
But when you watch television, not every. So, for example, some movies have.
No,
You
so
don't?
honestly, I have TV at home, but I don't watch TV. Most when my kids watch the television, because when I watch the television, I don't hear anything. I don't understand anything.
But what if it has
Closed
subtitles?
caption.
Subtitles.
If there's closed caption, I will sit and watch all day. I will do that. But
Okay.
if there's no, it's boring.
Indeed, it makes Wow, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Juventus Duorinaah, we're grateful that you shared your story with us. We're certainly inspired here at Asaase, and we're hoping that this will inspire other people as well. And I, for one, would like to say that I'm looking forward to a society where we can all sign. Because, I mean, you come across as a very gregarious individual, but if I'm not texting with you, communicating without your interpreter will be difficult. And I very much would like to keep talking to you.
Yes.
Well,
Right.
that's how we end this segment we call Road to Greatness. More grease to your elbow, and may your advocacy bring us...
Final words.
Yeah, just before you come in, may the advocacy that you're working on yield some great fruits and impact. Any final thoughts you want to share with our audience and us here before you leave us?
Okay, first I want to take this opportunity to thank the director for the Ghana School of Law, Yao Opon, J.A., I thank you so much for your leadership skill. When I went to law school, he made sure that I get access to the school. First thing I communicated to the law school, I need sign language interpreters to help me be able to participate in the classroom. So the director worked hard, made sure that these services were provided. The reason why I'm saying this is that it's for other institutions to emulate. When you have a deaf person or when you have a leader who try running away from a person with disability, it's not the best. The director at the law school took it up, the challenge, he took it up, and now made sure that I had interpreters, and now I have the interpreters. They paid for the interpreters. That made me to calm down and then to study. I say kudos.
Wow.
And to the registry, I also want to say thank you to them. They have really supported me. I also want to thank all who supported me from the beginning of the school till now. And my 2 interpreters always working with me. They are very amazing and they inspire me a lot. My final word is to other institutions must emulate the examples of the director of the Ghana School of Law and a leadership skill. I'm more than inspired to talk about him.
Well, we are super inspired, and thank you so much for joining us. Now, I want to curiously ask Kweku SL a couple of questions. Now, Francis Kweku SL has been signing for Juventus Duorinaah in the studio with us this morning. Now, Francis, how did you get into this? How did you become a sign language interpreter?
So it all happened when I was in training college, PTC, now PCE, Presbyterian College of Education, Ekropon. So the first day getting into the school, first devotion, PTC devotion is one of the things we always do. So I saw a gentleman signing as an interpreter. I was like, no, this looks good. So I want to learn. So all the time, I'm the first person to sit at the gallery so that I can see him and see what he is signing. So as time went on, I was getting the words. So at a time came when he will be signing, and at the moment I hear the word, if I hear God, I will sign in my head, and the sign will match. And I was like, I'm getting there. So at a point, I realized that when he is signing, and then we are going to sing the hymns, he will get up and will not sign the hymns. And I was like, no, I need to fix this. So I learned the sign language, and one time, self-taught, reading from internet, YouTube. One time I met him, I was like, Senior, I want to sing with the deaf people. He just looked at me and was like, can you sign? I was like, oh, Senior, I'm learning small. And here I am. The good story about it is, when I was in the university as a TA, this guy came to the university and I taught him sign language.
That's a beautiful story.
So I've taught him, I've taught the wife. I told him, you have a daughter. I'm waiting to teach your daughter too.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's such a beautiful story. But thank you, both of you. Very short story, but that in itself is very inspirational. That your limitations are only limitations if you choose to resign and walk away from them. Every challenge with dedication and perseverance can be surmounted. Juventus Duorinaah, thank you very much and congratulations. You are our man of the moment.
Thank you too. Thank you.
You can run the mile, you can walk straight through hell with
It's 9:26.